Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I think he picks an out-of-state school Friday, and then the in-state schools feel like they can ramp up the flip efforts after that point. So I think Miami and Florida State in particular are more built for the long game. So to me, I think he's putting on a Texas A&M hat or maybe a Pitt hat. I think that's kind of the order of my confidence just from where I sit. Again, I do not believe Hykeem has that internal decision because there is such varying confidence from the other side of our sourcing in the industry that says these coaching staffs are up and down in the confidence department. There is not one group that is mailing it in at this point, one way or the other, from a positive perspective, like, hey, we're getting him, or that negative perspective of we missed out, we're moving on to prospect XYZ. So that tells me that there's still a long way to go in this race. But conventionally, and just in my experience, these recruitments tend to go one way before the other. And to me, it means going out of state before coming back in state for those stay-at-home pitches that often resonate as the weather gets a little bit cooler, even in the state of Florida. So to me, your best bet from the Pitt perspective is to win the recruitment Friday head-to-head with Texas A&M and try to hold off the late charge that we expect from Florida State and Miami, regardless of what he decides to do on Friday.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting way to put it because when you look at what Hykeem is doing here, he's actually playing that long game, and it doesn't feel like this is a true commitment, as you've stated many, many times. It feels like Florida State and Miami are going to have to be held off long. And for Pitt, what do you think is the key factor here that they need to do? If they get that commitment, let's say they do, and we have that down, what's the key for Pitt to keeping him in the fold?
It sounds so simple, Nick, but you got to keep recruiting him like he never committed. You have to continue to pursue him from a communication standpoint, from a consistency standpoint, and from a recruiting his entire camp standpoint, right? High school coaches, mom, mentors, 7-on-7 coaches, everybody. You have to continue to push the recruitment as if he is only naming a leader and not making a final decision, because that is kind of how this commitment is going to be perceived. Because we do know, again, regardless of who loses out among those five schools on Friday, there's going to be an increase in attention from their perspective, at least initially, right? It could wear off as the fall wraps up and we get closer to bowl season and all that fun stuff. It could wear off, but at least initially, and maybe Hykeem is making these phone calls right now where he's telling five coaching staffs thanks but no thanks and one coaching staff that they're the victors. At that point, they have a decision to make. Do we double down and say, well, hey, we respect your decision, but we're still coming? Or do they start to bow out and say, hey, we respect you, congratulations, good luck at school X? And really from that moment, if you win this recruitment, whether it's Pitt or anyone else, you got to stay on him. You have to continue to recruit him and court him as if his commitment date is December 14th as opposed to September 23rd. That's what it's going to take, because he's that big a talent, that unique a talent at a true position of need for all these programs, right? Are any, besides Pitt, ironically enough, are any of these programs known for great wide receiver development? And do they have a recent track record stating such? Georgia doesn't, A&M doesn't. Miami, if they could throw it all to the receiver positions, they probably beat Texas A&M the other day. None of these programs, Florida State, have churned out consistent elite players at that position. And from that perspective, Pitt has that track record to lean on more so than all of these other schools in the conversation. So that's another fascinating element of this. But I think regardless, you got to stay on him hot and heavy as if he never made the commitment in the first place.